Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah, live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, good morning, and welcome to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show, and it is Hump Day. I mean, as joyous as that sounds, Hump Day. Middle of the week, we can see the slide to Firearms Friday from here. Joining us on Friday will be Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine. He's going to come on board to talk with us about what's happening in both Colorado and California. He's had a couple articles out recently that I think really dive down into the heart of what's going on with some of the fights that are going on about the Second Amendment across the country, and I thought it would be a good time to talk with him about it. It's been about a month or so, 6 weeks since we've talked to him, and he is always welcome on the program to discuss these things and more. Oh, it's so good. All right, so good stuff. Good stuff. All right, what else we got? Well, we were supposed to talk to Jamie Allard this morning, but as of about an hour ago, she ducked out and said, please, can I come on tomorrow? Because she had some committee meeting this morning that she had to prep for, and she says she promises to be here tomorrow morning. So we'll hold her to that promise. In fact, we'll just say, gonna hold you to it right now. I didn't even have a chance to respond this morning because when she told me that, I had to rejigger my plans, and desperately trying to get some other stuff pulled together here that I've been wanting to talk about and hadn't had a chance to do so yet. So I was pulling audio and doing other things this morning, getting things ready. But that means, ooh, baby, that means that it's all about us today. It's just you and me. It's just you and me talking about things that are important to us. And so it's a little bit of free reign. It's a hodgepodge. It's the water cooler discussion today. So I have a couple things that I'm definitely going to talk about here to begin with. And then I'm going to let you guys we're going to run amok and talk about whatever we feel like talking about. Mike Shower, who's normally on a Wednesday, we told you last week, Mike Shower was not going to be able to make it today. So he'll be on next week. He is, he's airborne somewhere. So, just FYI, I'm sorry, that was not unexpected. I had already set up Jamie to be here today in Mike Shower's place, but that fell apart. So I don't know, sometimes Wednesdays, man, they just don't, they don't work out. I don't know if is it because I say hump day? I know people are like, you're not supposed to say that anymore. Well, I say it anyway, because you can't tell me what to do. Get off my lawn. Anyway, I'm feeling a little feisty today. I'll be honest with you. I'm feeling a little feisty and a little frustrated in general about the whole world. About the whole world. But we're going to go over a few things here and get started with it. But the phone lines, it's actually, I got distracted. A squirrel. The phone lines are open. 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. Yes, it's open mic day. Exactly. Thank you, Chris. That's what I was like. It's open line, open forum, which is essentially like open mic day. So we'll see what happens there. I guess reporting from Anchorage because, a bunch of wackadoos down there. They have their mayoral and muni races in the middle of spring instead of the fall, like everybody else in the state. So the mayoral race is going to come down to a runoff, which was not unexpected. And it looks like Dave Bronson, the incumbent, the conservative in the race, is going to face off against Susan LaFrance, who is probably the most progressive of all the candidates that were out there. So this is going to be a polarizing runoff between the conservative candidate and the progressive candidate. And I guess we'll see which way the politics in Anchorage are going to swing. I don't know. If you end up with LaFrance and the assembly as it sits right now, I honestly don't know how people in Anchorage are gonna make it. I mean, with just expect an excess of taxes and other things. It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting, It's a close race up there, and they have had just had a double-digit turnout. It was 16% on Monday, I think, is what the voter turnout was at that point with the mail-in ballots. But conservatives tend to want to go down and vote in person, and so now it's closer to 20%. But you've got a city like Anchorage with plenty of problems, and they can't easily raise more than a 20% voter turnout. Oof. I mean, just freaking oof. But I guess that's better than what happened in Fairbanks last time they had a vote. Was it 12% or something? And that's that's part of the problem. And we could talk about that today, kind of the apathy of the voter. And I think it's in part because people are just freaking exhausted with all the back and forth and the polarization and the divisiveness and the tribalization of everything. And I mean, all the stuff and things, to which at some point I start thinking, is that intentional? Is it, there can't be some big machination, some kind of underarching plot to make it, because there's just no way. The inefficiency of government just makes it to think that there could be some big shadow government thing going on, because I've seen those. We've all seen the conspiracy theories. My God, my brain this morning. We've all seen the conspiracy theories about, there's a shadow government in this. The ineptitude of government proves that I don't think that they could hold something like that together for long enough to really exercise something like that. But I just think people are tired. I think they're just tired of all of it. I feel you, bro. But that's I guess that's the big news right now, is that race is still going on. All the school board incumbents in Anchorage, which good God, all the school board members who were incumbents all held wide leads in their preliminary results, which they posted last night. Pat Higgins carried 56% of the vote against Kay Schuster. Carl Jacobs was leading 58% to the first-time candidate Chelsea Poland. And seat F with Dora Wilson is 63% against her candidate Angela Frank. The conservatives in Anchorage were trying to make a move a little bit on the school board to try and, and nope. It's a full-on nope, which, again, doesn't bode well, I think, for part of the runoff. I mean, I'll just, again, let me just be frank with you. If I was living in Anchorage right now, I would be looking for someplace else to live. There's no way. The madness that we've seen over the last few years in the Anchorage area, starting off with Ethan Berkowitz's mayoral debut and everything that he did, moving on to his replacement, who held both an assembly seat and was the mayor at the same time, the interim mayor. Explain to me how that works. And then the ascension of Bronson because of the frustration. If you end up with somebody like Susan LaFrance as the mayor of Anchorage, and then the stridently progressive assembly that they have right now, doomed. I mean, just saying. I think I'd be looking for. Man, maybe we should go build a bunker somewhere. Just watch it all burn. That's depressing, isn't it? I mean, just like, you should just go build a bunker somewhere, watch it all burn, because that's what's going to happen. This thing's going to tear itself apart. Anyway, so that was one of the big pieces of local news. Not a lot of other stuff happening. The House lawmakers are continuing on the budget work. There's not been a whole lot of changes to the original draft spending plan that was presented by Delana Johnson already. They approved the $7.5 million for childcare, although I will give Delana some credit. She at the end of the I lost the story. I had the story here in front of me. I wanted to quote it properly, and I've closed the window. Anyway, she did ask questions about why should we pay for this directly, which I thought was a good direction to go. First and foremost, to ask the question about why government should pay. But then she went on to submarine all that good work in that statement to ask questions about, like, well, we need to have more regulations over childcare if we're going to be giving them money, and that's the problem. That's the problem right there. We need more regulations to check to make sure that government money is being spent wisely, which is just going to create more problems down the road for, I mean, this whole thing. So Will Stapp made he made an amendment to pull to take that $7.5 million out of the permanent fund, to pay for that directly out of the permanent fund. That was what his argument was. If they want it, they need to pay for it, essentially, is what he said. And I was like, what? He literally said if they want it, they should have to pay for it. And he put forward their proposal to pull the $7.5 million out of the payment of the permanent fund dividend. Oh, Will, you're a special kind of guy. So we're gonna jump into that and dissect that a little bit further here in just a bit. So we'll get into that as well. But again, phone lines are open. 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. Oh, and what happened at that school board meeting where they were discussing the slanderous statements of the presiding officer against sitting legislators? Oh, we'll find out about that here in a minute. But just a minute. You'll see. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking for my comments from yesterday. I'm looking for the I'm looking for the damn. Where is it? I can't find it. Where did it go? I had the. All right. Oh, sorry, you'll make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I'm going through it. Here we go. Oh, I know where it was. There we go. Got it. Thank you. All right. I was trying to remember where the storyline was and where I got it from, and now I remember. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this here in just a little bit. Okay, let me go back to the comments because I've missed you guys. All you guys. Good morning. Good morning. Brian. My dad. Hello, Dad. I love you. Just want to let you know that. Love you and love Mom. Give her a kiss for me. Top of the morning. And then Brian finally remembered to say good morning to me. Me, I'm the most important person in this room. Anyway. Good morning. Rejiggering can be hard, says Terry. Yeah, it is. It's hard sometimes, when I've got a whole plan out for the show, like who I'm going to talk to and everything else. And then, I'm already 35 minutes into my preps and going a certain direction. And then they're like, psych. And you're like, and then it's a scramble. It's a mad scramble. Not that I just couldn't turn the mic on and talk for 2 hours about whatever, but I like it to at least be a little cohesive. You know what I mean? Less than 20% showing up to vote. Greg bets that City of Anchorage could be bankrupt in a year. I think it'd probably take a little bit longer than that, but boy, it would not be a fun place to live. Brian asks, will Eagle Exit gain steam if LaFrance wins? Possibly. I mean, yeah. Debbie said, I heard a quote yesterday, but I did not catch who said it. It's not so much that liberals are ignorant, but that they believe so many things that are just not so. Well, I mean, that's true. They have their own cognitive biases and they do not want to believe things that shakes their worldview. They don't want to hear things like that. That's why, but people on the right are getting to be that way as well. I mean, there's liberal snowflakes and there's conservative snowflakes at the same time. Again, the answer to speech you don't agree with is more speech. That's always been my position, regardless of which side of the aisle the speech is on. Bill says, freaking Anchorfornia. Yeah, it's the combination of Anchorage and California. Wouldn't it be nice to just live your life without worrying constantly about what action is being taken by the government? It is exhausting. There's truth in that. Absolutely. Already has a child care program. Cindy says, please tell me things have changed. Results did not look good before I went to bed. Please tell me things have changed. Well, it looks like it's going to be a runoff between Bronson and LaFrance, which was expected because there were so many people in the race and they require a majority in the city of Anchorage to get that done. Well, looks like they voted down those $500,000 toilets. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. Ready? Should we get into it? Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do it.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah. All right. So, Hump Day happiness. We're all about what's going on today. It is the Michael Duke Show. So we're in the middle of what's going on with the House Finance, and I finally found where I was pulling the information from. I forgot it was on Twitter and not on the news story. It's from Matt Buxton. Matt Buxton, of course, who writes it used to be called the Midnight Sun blog. I can't remember what it's called now. The Cranberry Press or something. I don't remember. Anyway, Matt Buxton used to write for the Fbx Daily News Miner and then started his own thing, and now he's off, doing. Good for him. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but he's reporting on everything that's going on down in Juneau. Anyway, he was doing like a live thing on Twitter. X. Sorry, Elon. Please don't hurt me. He was doing something and he was live streaming it, not live streaming the video, but commentary on a play-by-play basis on X at the House committee meeting for House Finance. And he said, this is where we got the quote. And I was going to go out and pull it this morning, but again, when my day kind of exploded, I didn't get a chance to do it. In considering an amendment to add $7.5 million in additional child care grants, Rep. Stapp proposes an amendment that would cut the PFD funding by $7.5 million. He says if they want to spend, they should pay for it. It's the first time ever that Will Stapp has said who pays. And again, it's a penalty. It's something that he didn't agree with. So what did he do? Oh, he makes it hurt. He makes it hurt by taking it directly out of your not just indirectly of like giving you the leftover PFD. He proposed to cut the PFD funding directly out of that by $7.5 million. Now, Rep. Julie Colomb says she already proposed cuts to balance the new spending, referencing an amendment from yesterday that proposed cutting tens of millions of dollars in vacant positions. Good for you. Tens of millions of dollars for vacant positions. Think about that for a minute. Oh, that reminds me. There was a story yesterday that we're going to talk. Let me pull that up real quick to talk about. There we go. I found it. To talk about something similar. This is a story that we didn't get to yesterday from the ADN. I'm sorry. Back to X here with Matt Buxton. So Colomb says she's already proposed cuts to balance that new spending, referencing an amendment that would cut tens of millions of dollars in vacant positions. I'm curious as to how many tens of millions of dollars were cut out in vacant positions in the state. Now, remember yesterday, Representative Ben Carpenter mentioned the fact that over the last 5 years, we've added nearly 700 positions to the state rolls at the cost of, was it $600 million? It was $400 million. I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to go back and look exactly what he said. But again, the past 5 years, that's like most of COVID and post-COVID, and all we did was every other place in the world is cutting people, cutting budgets, doing everything else. The state, oh no, man, turn that stuff up to 11. So anyway, Colomb says she's already cut that out. You don't need this $7.5 million taken directly out of the PFD. Rep. Edgman says the budget is a long process with plenty of turns and an opportunity to change it ahead. He said pitting the dividend against children is not the way to do it. Even Edgman understands that this is a little bit radioactive. Ortiz calls the PFD versus the child care framing as much too simplistic. He notes that $7.5 million could be coming out of anything, including the capital budget. Stapp ultimately withdraws his amendment. He says if they're not willing to take it out of the PFD, he's going to be looking forward to how they plan on balancing the request. Now, this is where Delana Johnson steps in. She says moves an intent language amendment to the $7.5 million in child care grants for an oversight report from the state. She says she knows how hard it is to find child care, but she didn't expect the state to fund it. To which I was like, oh, wow, that's just a pretty solid position. Then she goes on to say, if the state is going to fund child care, then it needs to have clearer oversight roles over these facilities. What? So the answer is, I don't believe in this government, but if there's going to be government spend on this stuff, then we need to increase the size and scope of government to watch these people. Maybe I'm misreading it, but that's just how I'm. She says it's a mistake to provide funding without oversight for these facilities. The state needs to have a clearer oversight role over these facilities because you couldn't possibly choose the right child care method for yourself without the state intervening. But I guess if you are begging for money from the state, I guess they need to have some. She says she's concerned about the quality of some of the child care facilities, says some of the conditions would be surprising, and wants the state to have a clear understanding of what they're funding with these grants. And the intent language is adopted without objection. The underlying amendment calling for the $7.5 million in additional child care grants passes on an 8-3 vote, with Mike Kronk, Will Stapp, and Frank Tomaszewski all voting against. Well, I mean, I guess thank you, Stapp, for at least voting no on that. Anyway, you can go find Matt Buxton. It's at Matt Buxton on X, and he literally has a play-by-play of everything that goes on in that committee meeting. For most of yesterday. It's a super, super long thread of stuff. Anyway, it's an interesting take, and yet that way you can read through it real quick and you don't have to watch the entire showdown. Although I will be probably cutting out the segment where we look at Will's arguments as far as why he decided that he was going to take a crack at the permanent fund dividend payment. And when he said that was the other thing. He said in the comment, he's like, if they want to spend it, they should pay for it. Now, this is Buxton quoting Stapp, so I haven't heard the actual original in Stapp's voice, but he says if they want to spend it, they want to pay for it. Who is the they? Is it they, not him, because now he's making the big bucks because of his 67% pay raise? Now that he's in the upper echelon of the pay scale, anybody else that wants things, and does he not need childcare? Does he not, is it just they? Is that white? I hate that pejorative they. I just so frustrating. Anyway. And Tawny makes a great point in the chat room. This is a fantastic point. Tawny wins the internet for today. She says, so let me get this straight. Child care needs oversight and accountability, but school funding doesn't. What? Because that was the thing. Remember, there have been several votes on the school funding, including on the original BSA increase discussion and everything else, where some legislators, including Mike Schauer and I think Ben Carpenter, asked for accountability measures to be placed in with the money, that they would vote for it if it was there, and it was shot down. But childcare, that needs oversight and accountability and more government process, but not the schools. Not the schools. Okay. So that's that, the House, the budget is relatively unchanged from what has been originally proposed so far. We'll see what's going to come out of this here by the end of this week. They proposed there's a lot of been discussions about it. Members of the committee adopted only one new budget reduction on Monday. They cut $598,000 to the Alaska Gas Line Development Corporation. That's the equivalent to the two top salaries in the corporation. The two top salaries, they make $300,000 apiece. AGDC is charged with developing Alaska Gas Line, the Trans-Alaska Natural Gas Pipeline. And Frank Richards is the state's highest paid executive in the whole state. Sarah Hannon, the Democrat from Juneau, proposed eliminating all funding for the agency, but staff, with the support of the Finance Committee, shrunk the proposed reduction to just 1/10 of Hannon's original figure, which means that we're spending $6 million a year on this agency. In another amendment, the committee voted to boost funding for Head Start, the children's education program, by $200,000 above the previously authorized boost of $5 million. And in an act that irritates me personally, this is just me personally, I'm just saying, they approved $1.2 million for a handful of rural public radio stations that act as emergency communications for their communities. That's just more money pouring into the free radio money. I don't have anything to say. State lawmakers have repeatedly funded public radio, but Governor Dunleavy has vetoed the appropriation every year since he took office in 2018. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Senate leaders, this is, again, I guess I should have mentioned earlier, this is all from James Brooks at the Alaska Beacon. He's doing a little rundown here on this, and I'm just kind of giving you the highlights. Senate leaders have repeatedly expressed doubts that the House's draft budget, is fiscally responsible. Why? Well, because he said it's not fiscally responsible.
That was just BS.
That's what he said. He just said that was just fiscally responsible. The initials for fiscally responsible or BS, I guess, is the thing. Oh, that's Bert Stedman. That's the initials for. Anyway, Senator Bert Stedman and co-chair of the Senate Finance Committee said he intends to write a smaller number into the Senate's draft budget. Okay. The question is, are they going to do the handoff in the hallway? Are they going to pass the budgets back and forth? Are they going to what exactly are they going to do here? Because they got screwed. The House got screwed last year. I mean, there's no polite way to put that. I mean, they got really skewered by the Senate and their shenanigans and their turducken and the take it or leave it and leaving town thing. And they're not going to put up with that this year. So they had a written agreement between the House and the Senate leadership that they would hand the budgets off to each other at the same time. And now I'm hearing rumors that the Senate may be delaying the release of the capital budget. I don't know if it's in an attempt to see if the House is stupid enough to pass the operating budget over to them without having the other one in hand. I don't know. I just don't know. But we'll have to see. I mean, again, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. We're all idiots at that point. All right. We got to go. We will continue this discussion in just a moment. And as I mentioned earlier, the phone lines are open. If you would like to sound off, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I want to talk about the Fbx School Board, but I think I'm going to wait to the top of the hour on that, just so that we have maximum impact with the most people who are listening at any given time. We'll be back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Yeah, this whole rundown. If you haven't been, let me just excuse me while I whip this out. Let me hit you with. I think it's is that right? Will that work if I hit that? Is that the right? Yeah. Okay. Let me drop this link in the chat room. You can go check it out right here. This is just. I mean, this is crazy. Big Radio owns Dunleavy. Yes, Big Radio owns Dunleavy. All right. If my phone's working, I suppose I should test my phones because I'm like, why are people? I thought people would be incensed about this. Just gonna test my own phone lines to make sure that they're not something wrong that I don't know about. And see what's happening. Thanks for calling the call-in. Nope, it's working. Okay. All right, it was working. It's working. I was just making sure that my own phone lines were working. I usually test them before I get started, but again, I was a little rushed this morning. Okay. We need to stop funding the vacant positions / funding. Yes. I have been talking about that for years. Why would the state fund childcare, says Greg? Oh, because people ask for it, Greg. You don't understand. My constituents are asking for help with this, and only the government has the money and the unlimited funds to do it. Going. I'm going through here. Don't worry. They keep spending, says Donna. We complain about the schools not having accountability, but neither does the legislature. Well, the argument there is that the ballot box is the accountability for the legislature. But when you've only got 16% of the population actually voting and pay attention to this stuff, well, then there you go. Can they make a bacon fund and call it the swine candy bill? Well, that sounds delicious and also disturbing at the same time. I love bacon, but swine candy, that just sounds like it should be a pandemic plan. The swine candy bill. Vote no. Anything written in the legislature is subject to. This is why they want to give the school enormous unnecessary BSA hikes that have no line item budget accountability. The two biggest thieves of public money, the legislature and the education system. Mark Weisenbeck says, I would love to hear from Melissa Burnett on what her official statement is. Duran stated that he spoke for the entire board, which includes her. Don't get ahead of me, Mark. I haven't read the statement yet. I've got it, but I haven't read it yet. We're going to do that after the top of the hour. Maximum impact. All right. What has become of the firebrand Bernadette? I have no idea. Child care funding, says Barbara, was a priority for the Fairbanks North Star Borough. Of course it was. You know, of course it does. man. All right. I'm all caught up on the comments. This is where the podcast listeners are rolling their eyes like, wow, I know you can't see a thing that I'm typing or reading out there, but I'm trying to give you the best of what the commentary is from the listenership out there in the world right here. All right. So we're going to do it. We're a minute out here or so roughly from the restart. What should we talk about next? I want to talk about the school board in Fairbanks, but I'm going to hold that to the top of the hour. Maybe we should talk about Andy Frisella. Andy Frisella, who I have been following for a while and really like some of the things that he has to say. And he dropped something yesterday, which I thought was so appropriate for April, because April 15th is coming. Tax day. Tax day. Aren't you excited? Aren't you happy? And he put something in perspective. I caught this yesterday and was like, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that here in this next segment. That sounds good to me. That sounds juicy. And in case, don't forget, you're welcome to call in and talk with us, and anything you want to say now is just feel free to come on, man, steer the conversation. Let's get it done. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Please like the show wherever you're watching it. Share it. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell and do all the things that helps the show out. That's all I can ask.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Okay. We're gonna tell you a tale about what happened with the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District Board meeting yesterday, but that's going to be after the top of the hour for maximum effect. And we'll wait on that one here. So that's coming up here in about 12 minutes or so, 12, 15 minutes. We'll be going over that. In the meanwhile, I came across this yesterday, and I thought it was very appropriate because April is tax month, right? April is tax month. The 15th, got to have everything in. Uncle Sugar wants his pound or 2 or 10 of flesh from you. They are harvesting us. Like, I feel like sometimes like it's the Matrix. Like, we don't really know it, and we're not in the battery tubes, the tubes full of mush or whatever. We're not in the battery tubes, but it feels like we're being harvested for our resources every year, just to turn around and harvest us for more resources every year. The April the 15th, of course, is tax day. And if you start looking around, it used to be, that the, Freedom Day, what they used to call Freedom Day in regards to taxes, used to be close to April the 15th, right? You'd work up until that point to pay your taxes. And then after that, everything else you made was kind of, on you. But that is that mark has slowly moved over the course of years, because tax day being on April 15th was, well, probably 20 years ago. And now, of course, we're not just factoring in your federal income taxes and your FICA and your all that kind of stuff. We're also talking about every other form of tax that when you really factor it all in, because you need to not just talk about the overt withholding tax and the FICA and the 1040 form and all the federal taxes. You need to talk about your state taxes, your property taxes, the hidden taxes that you don't see that you're paying for on like a loaf of bread. I saw a breakdown one time that there's like 12 taxes on a loaf of bread before you get to buy it, whether you pay sales taxes on it or not. There's like 10 or 12 different taxes on that bread before it actually reaches you and all this other stuff. And now the latest numbers are showing that the your tax freedom day is not until August. So you are working more than half the year to fund all the government's, state, local, federal, all the government's mechanisms all the time. Isn't that exhausting? Isn't that exhausting? Well, Andy Frisella, and for those of you who don't know who Andy Frisella is, he's an entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author. He's a public speaker. He's got a YouTube channel. He's a go fast, try hard kind of, he's one of these entrepreneurs that are just, and speakers who just kind of tell it like it is. In fact, the get off my lawn speech that we talked about before, remember when I said this is kind of like my anthem? He was the guy that actually, this is the speech this is when I discovered that I'd seen him before, but I really hadn't followed him. And I started following him after he said this on, I don't know if it was TikTok or Instagram or whatever it was, but he said this.
I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm not libertarian. I'm a human being that wants the best for the rest of the human beings. And I want some common sense. And I want to be left alone. I want to pay low taxes. I want to be able to go build things and prosper and get all the things that have been promised to me in the Constitution of this country. That's what I want. And until people wake the up and stop identifying with left or right, Republican, Democrat, black, white, gay, straight, all the until we figure that out and stop doing that, we will continue to be abused by these people who hold the power.
When I heard that, I was like, okay, wow, man, this guy, that is the language of my tribe, right? I'm like, this guy is awesome. So anyway, Andy came out yesterday with this little bit, and I want you to think about this. I want you to consider this for just a moment. Just take a pause, whatever you're doing. You're making coffee, you're driving to work already, you're laying in bed listening to this show. I'm so sorry. I mean, whatever it is, take a minute and just pause and listen to what he has to say about the taxes. Just for a minute. Just put down what you're doing for 43 seconds.
You and him and me and everybody listening here, when we add up all our taxes over the course of a year, we work for the government more than we work for ourselves. It's not just income tax, it's sales tax, it's property tax, it's all this other. What does that make us? That makes us tax slaves in our own country that's supposed to be the freest country in the world. That has to change. I believe that the reason they make it that way is to financially oppress people for control reasons. If people don't have financial resources and they're worried about making their ends meet, it's very difficult for them to concentrate on what's happening in Washington, D.C. or what's happening in their local politics. So if you create enough division, enough hardship, enough confusion, enough anxiety, enough stress, it's really hard for the average person to get activated to pay attention to what's happening in the country, which gives them free reign to do whatever they want.
I was just like, man, half the time when this guy speaks, it's like a mic drop moment, right? I mean, just an absolute mic drop moment. Tax slaves. That's essentially what we have become, are tax slaves. Where we are, again, going back to that whole commentary about the whole Matrix thing, we are literally being harvested. We're being harvested by the government for our money to continue itself. I mean, we all look at what's going on in Washington and we're like, oh, we really can't do anything about that, or we really can't do anything about that. But boy, you stop paying for those things, you'll find out. FAFO, yeah, you'll find out. We are a slave to this federal system of governance, which has grown and grown. I'm sure, in the beginning, I'm sure it sounded great. We should just have a little bit of a tax so that we can help pay for government and we can, pay back and reconstruct from the Civil War, or maybe now we're paying for World War I, or maybe now we're paying for World War II, and every increase and everything that they did made perfect sense at the time, because it was a little by little, but government by its very nature grows and morphs and consumes everything in its path. When it has a job, its job is they then has the nature to consolidate, to justify what it's doing and everything else. And here we are. Here we are, tax slaves in our own country. Well, I don't think I'm a tax slave. Okay, well, just don't pay your taxes for a year or 2 or 3, and then see what happens. Right? And then see, well, I'm not a tax slave. Okay, well, just don't pay the property taxes on your house for 3 years and see what happens. You'll get a letter in the mail, certified on your nickel, that says, if you don't pay the taxes by this date, we're going to forfeit and we're going to put your property up for sale. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. I have been on that list, people. I have only paid the taxes grudgingly some years. I've been on that 3-year list where I didn't pay the taxes for 3 years, and because I'm just so pissed about it. Because to me, it's such an immoral thing to own property outright. I own my property outright, but I have to pay the government for the pleasure of owning it. So then I get on the list and then I go down and pay it, gritting my teeth and giving the stink eye to the lady across the counter. It's not her fault, but you know what I mean? You think you're not a slave? You think you're not a tax slave? Well, I mean, Andy Frisella just really dropped the bomb there on that one. And I just can't think of a better way to say it. He is my spirit animal right now. All right. Hour 2 is dead ahead. What happened at the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board meeting yesterday? Well, I'm going to talk about that. All right. We're going to be back. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Hour 2 is dead ahead. If you got to go, be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you back with more right after this. Tyler says, I checked him out. He checked out Andy Frisella after the first TikTok that I shared and said, Tyler says he was too, Trump is the only correct answer for me. Look, I can't agree with everyone all the time. And I guess if I was handed only 2 options, and you put a gun to my head and said, which one will which one, I would have to say Trump in that regard. But there's more than 2 options, luckily. So I get a chance to vote for somebody else and be happy about it. But I can't agree with everyone on everything, right? So, I mean, I agree with you, Tyler. Some of his stuff is way too much for me because I'm not, again, in case you're just joining the show and you've never heard me say this before, I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump. I think he, anyway, I think it would be problematic for him to be president again, personally. Now, if you said Joe Biden or Donald Trump, well, again, lesser of 2 evils, and you hold a gun to my head, okay, I'll say Trump. But luckily for me, there's other choices out there. So it is. But Bill's got it right. Even when you own, you rent. That's what we're talking about. I mean, in Fairbanks, I own property in Fairbanks, and I own it outright. Like it's free, cleared, paid for, got a shop on it, the whole thing. I own it outright. But I still got to pay rent to the borough every year. And if I don't, they send me a letter. You failed to pay, and we're going to put it up for sale to pay for it. All right. You want the Frisella. You want the link. Let me pull the link. Where did I? Here it is right here. Let me pull up the link so that you guys can have it here. Let's see. I think that this is it. I hate it. Facebook tags like a million different things onto the end of it. Here you go. All right. So this was from Instagram. This was a clip out of his thing from Instagram. So Brian, those of you who wanted to hear this and have this for themselves, here is the link to Frisella's commentary, which I'm gonna play again.
You and him and me and everybody listening here, when we add up all our taxes over the course of a year, we work for the government more than we work for ourselves. It's not just income tax, it's sales tax, it's property tax, it's all this other. What does that make us? That makes us tax slaves in our own country that's supposed to be the freest country in the world. That has to change. I believe that the reason they make it that way is to financially oppress people for control reasons. You know, if people don't have financial resources and they're worried about making their ends meet, it's very difficult for them to concentrate on what's happening in Washington, D.C. or what's happening in their local politics. So if you create enough division, enough hardship, enough confusion, enough anxiety, enough stress, it's really hard for the average person to get activated to pay attention to what's happening in the country, which gives them free reign to do whatever they want.
Now, you add that to the divisiveness and the polarization and the infighting and everything else. Yeah, people are like throwing their hands up in the air and just not paying attention anymore. And remember, government is what happens to you when you stop paying attention. I mean, when you stop paying attention, that's what you get right there. That's the government you get. Whew. Yeah. Anyway, spirit animal. He is laying down some truth bombs there. It was a laser designated strike the target truth bomb right there. Boom. And you know what? The worst part is that the majority of Americans are just like, okay, that's the way it's always been. That's the way it's always going to be. Although the people who approved and started this whole thing with the income taxes and paying the government and all that, they never intended it to be where it's at today. This is the mission creep that government creates. This is that mission creep. And we should not be surprised. Randy says, okay, God, Randy, the hoops, man, the hoops. Randy says it's fairly safe to vote for a third presidential candidate in Alaska because it's almost certain that Alaska's 3 electoral votes will go for Trump because Trump was so amazingly good for Alaska. So it's safe to throw a vote for a libertarian candidate to make a statement. However, I will certainly vote for Trump. I'm not voting for a third-party presidential candidate because Alaska's electoral votes are most certainly going to go to Trump. I'm voting for another candidate because I believe they're a better candidate. I'm not voting for Trump or not voting for the Libertarian Party or whoever it is that I vote for, whether it's RFK or the Libertarian Party or who. Although I'm getting some heebie-jeebies about some of the things that RFK stood for. And as I do more research, I'm getting a little more leery of that. But it doesn't matter. I'm not going to vote for Trump or Biden. And I'm not doing it feeling safe because Trump's going to get the electoral votes anyway. I'm doing it because it's the right thing for me. Not doing it just because it's going to work out. All right. Gotta go. Oh, wait till we talk next. Yee. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Okay, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator on plain old terrestrial radio. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning, the Wednesday edition of the show, Hump Day. Now, normally, this is the day that we talk with State Senator Mike Shower, but he had already told us last week he wasn't going to be able to make it. We thought that this hour we were going to be talking with Jamie Allard, but she begged off earlier this morning because of a committee meeting, and she promises to be on tomorrow. We're going to hold her to that. But today we're going to do all the adulting for you so you don't have to do it yourself. Because, yes, like Bill says, I don't want to adult today. I feel your pain, man. I feel it. Sometimes you just don't want to adult. Sometimes this stuff just, I mean, if you don't think that sometimes I lay in bed at night and look at the ceiling and go, why? Why am I fighting so hard? Why don't I just go along to get along? Get a government job and do all the things and create a company that lives off the government teat and takes the contracts. And why don't I just do that? Well, because it wouldn't be right. That's why. That's pretty much it right there. It wouldn't be right. Maybe sometime in the future I'll get exhausted and I'll just give in. But for now, I'm fighting the fight, people, because reasons. Freedom. All right. So we just finished up. This show is a hot mess today. Okay. I'm just telling you right now, because I am freeforming it. And whenever I freeform it, that's when things get real sketchy, because I have a tendency to go off the rails and get agitated about stuff. So again, today you are the guardrails. I put up the phone lines. They're on. We're ready to go. We'll take your calls today about whatever you want to talk about. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. If you want to call in, feel free to do so. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in this. But now we've got to talk about the thing that I've been teasing for the last 40 minutes, which is what happened last night at the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board meeting. Now, you may remember that this whole thing came about, this emergency meeting of the school board came about for a single reason. And that's because the presiding officer of the school board in Fairbanks decided in her emotion-laden, tear-filled diatribe, she decided to besmirch and slander sitting legislators, impugning them, and basically saying that they were committing felonies by taking bribes for not overriding the governor's veto. Let me just remind you of what it sounded like.
To the other representatives, Representative Tomaszewski, Senator Myers, Representative Kronk, and I slightly give Representative Prax a pass because he didn't vote for it to begin with, so at least you stood by your vote. I am so utterly disappointed. Fairbanks deserved better. You are part of our community, and we were clear what we needed, and you let us all down. And I've heard rumors, and mind you, they're rumors, so newspapers in the audience, I'm fully aware, don't quote me on it, that you might have sold us down the river for a $70,000 campaign donation. I hope it was worth it.
So I love how she gets all laughed. I mean, first of all, I edited that down because there was a lot of sniffles and sobs and emotion-laden stuff in there.
That was just BS.
Okay, I mean, there's a lot of it. I trimmed that down and tripped. I cut out all the stuff like that because, oh my God. Okay. So she makes this point, and first of all, she's quoting, or actually misquoting, Zach Fields, who floated the rumor to begin with, and the rumor was not that that these guys were going to get campaign bribes themselves. Okay, that was the first thing that went on there. Not that they got campaign bribes themselves. Zach Fields' letter said, and I'm quoting now, in pressuring Republicans to flip-flop and oppose a bill they previously supported, this is the veto of the education bill, Dunleavy threatened to campaign and spend $70,000 per race against any Republicans who voted to override the veto. So that's the source of it. Now, when asked about where he got that, Zach Fields, he said, it's 100% true. I got it from a Republican, from one of the Republicans in the legislature. Won't name names, won't name a source, but just throwing things out there, pretending like they're true and saying some Republican told me this. So not only was it slanderous, I mean, she's not even reporting the rumor correctly, okay? The rumor, which came from Zach Fields, which said they were going to spend $70,000 against incumbents who didn't vote to support the override, not give $70,000 to everybody who voted in favor of the governor. Okay. That's so, I mean, stupid. Okay. It's all wrong. I just wanted to give you some backstory on this. So, when the Interior delegation sent a letter to the school board and demanded a retraction and an apology for what was said, because it was slanderous. I mean, that it was slanderous. There's no other way to, there's no two ways about it. Wrong and slanderous. So they held a meeting. They got in there and they held a meeting, and they, here we go. This is what we got to say. They held a meeting. There was a lot of testimony that night. That was last Tuesday. Unfortunately, it seems like much of the testimony was in support of the school board president, and a lot of the written testimony that went on afterwards continued because they had to continue the testimony. Now, from what I understand, they had front loaded, because they only allowed, I think, like an hour or 90 minutes of public testimony at that point. They had front-loaded it with supporters, and that there were a lot of people who were very upset that they didn't get a chance to testify because they wanted to rip a new one into the school board over this. So, again, potentially more manipulation by the time it's all said and done. So they continued it until last night. Last night was going to be the final discussion, and there was a potential for executive session and other things. Here was my contention. I'm not saying that Brandy Hardy should be removed from the school board. I know that some people were calling for that. I'm saying that she should be removed from the presiding officer's position, because as the presiding officer, she has a duty and a responsibility to be held to a higher standard when speaking publicly on many things. I was the presiding officer of the RSAC, the Assembly Road Service Area Commission, when I was on the Borough Assembly. I was there for 3 of my 5 years, maybe 4, 3.5 of my 5 years. I was the chair of that committee, the presiding officer of that committee. And when I held that gavel, I felt a responsibility to make sure that the things that I were saying was not necessarily, I'm not saying I wasn't hiding anything, but I was not being intentionally, not being inflammatory. I was being patient with people who I disagreed with. I was doing all the things that I usually try and do, but I was very mindful of the fact that when I held that gavel, that was important. She just accused sitting legislators of taking bribes, somehow dodging the bullet, but by saying, "Oh, I heard this is a rumor, so don't quote me on it. The newspapers in the audience, don't quote me on it," which they didn't. What the actual hell? I mean, well, I heard that you used to beat your wife. Now, that's a rumor, but don't quote me on it, newspapers. I heard that you used to beat your wife. What? I mean, I heard that you would go into the back room and smoke meth sometimes. Now, that's just a rumor, so newspapers, make sure you don't quote me on it. But I just, what? How did that not make it into the paper? Thank God somebody clipped that out and actually posted it up, and it got picked up by Must Read, because otherwise people would have no idea what's going on, what's being said. This is the woman who's supposed to be leading our educational efforts in Fairbanks. And I am like, what? So last night was the final meeting on this. And when it was all said and done, they did nothing. They didn't even take a vote on it. They had a discussion amongst themselves on the podiums. They took the public testimony, and they're dropping the issue. And then they put out this statement. Now, I say statement, but this is the statement that is the most non-statement statement I've ever heard. Here's what the school board says. As a school board, we are a learning entity, and we share a commitment to students such that we, individually and as a board, do our best to advocate for public education and individual student success. We strive to model good conduct and to live up to our norms, including, quote, to assume positive intent of each member and remain respectful at all times, unquote. Recently, we fell short of our standards. A failure like this is a failure of the entire board, and we can and do take collective responsibility. We have had serious and productive conversations to address both individual and collective behaviors that will promote our focus on student well-being and success. We will move forward as a board with renewed commitments to the professionalism and decorum that our community expects of us. As a school board, we have important work ahead. Did that sound like an apology to you? Did that sound like, I mean, did that really mean anything? I mean, they admit at the beginning that they are the highest, they're the highest point of the school board, of the school system, and that they have a commitment to students to advocate for public education and to strive to model good conduct. But did they? No. But it wasn't, and then not only did they absolve her of any personal responsibility, they throw the entire school board under the bus with her. A failure like this is a failure of the entire board, and we can and do take collective responsibility. What? I mean, I personally know Melissa Burnett, and I can't imagine, maybe she's here listening this morning and wants to call in and tell us, but I can't imagine that she is going to take personal responsibility for the behavior and the actions and the speech of the presiding officer when she accuses sitting legislators of a federal felony. This is nothing but a cop-out. I mean, this is not even an apology. This is mealy-mouthed word salad meant to sound super intelligent and basically telling you, go screw yourself. That's exactly what it's doing. Oh, sure, we made a mistake, but we made it collectively. And we've decided amongst ourselves that we've got important work ahead, so we're just going to put this behind us. I mean, I just, no. I am not. No, I'm not going to let this go. I'm not going to let this go. This is some bull. That's what this is. That you've got public officials out there blithely accusing other public officials of felonies and then doing this round-robin, tear-jerking circle of patting each other on the back and saying, it's all going to be okay. Collectively, we'll take responsibility for you because you couldn't possibly be blamed for your own failures and whatever. This woman made the decision to say these things. She tried to couch it. You hear the laugh. It's a rumor, so don't quell. They used to molest animals. What? It was a rumor. I didn't say, I mean, fill in the blank with any federal felony you want. They used to run drugs. They used to run guns. I mean, whatever it is. But it's okay. It's okay. We fell short of our standards. And we take collective response. In nowhere does it say we apologize. In nowhere does it say it was wrong. Oh no, we just fell slightly short of our standards. So don't worry about it. These are the people that are in charge of taking care of your kids and learning them up. Doesn't that make you feel good? Doesn't that give you a warm fuzzy?
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
I mean, I hope I'm off the air. I hope, because that right there is some total bullshit stuff. I just can't take the chance that I'm not on the air in the peninsula. Just it's, and a lot of you are still sending your kids to those schools being run by these jackasses. It's astonishing to me. It's totally astonishing. Yeah. Run out of town on a rail. That would be my suggestion. Give her the blue ticket. For those of you who are not old enough to remember, Alaska Airlines used to issue tickets, actual physical paper tickets. I know, kids, stick with me here. It's hard to believe. But they used to actually issue physical tickets. And the blue ticket, there was, round trips, and then there was one ways. And the pink ticket was the round trip, and the blue ticket was the one-way ticket. And so when you said give somebody a blue ticket, that means put them on a plane and send them out, never to return. I'm so incensed for somebody like Rob Myers to be thrown under the bus. I mean, to everybody she talked about, but Rob Myers specifically, because there's a guy who, I mean, he's doing everything he can. Father, blue collar worker, self-educated, intelligent guy who's brought forth plenty of ideas and ways to make things better. And she besmirches his character by accusing him of committing a federal crime. But she laughs it off at the beginning. Oh, it's just rumors, so don't quote me on this, but, he used to kill people for a living. I mean, again, fill in the blank with any federal crime, and she just gets away with it? Well, they're just elected officials, so they're fine. Well, I hope that they are exploring their legal options. That's all I'm saying. Somebody's got to be held accountable for that. And it's not the whole board. Oh, the whole board takes responsibility. Do they really? Does the whole board really take responsibility? Greg doesn't want to see her on an airplane. She says he wants to take him to the train station, send him on the train, if you know what I mean. Why any of you people, and I'm not trying to be pejorative here, why any of you people would send your kids to this public school system is beyond me. Oh, by the way, did you see the story? This is the whole school system is totally shot to crap. Just shot, it's riddled with problems. Oh, you want the latest? Oh, did you see what happened down here at the high school or the junior high in at Clark Middle School? Junior middle school. They don't call them high schools anymore. Middle school. Did you see that? Where the 12-year-old was jumped by a whole bunch of other kids and a 14-year-old, sorry. And they have it all on video. Kicking, punching, grabbing her by the hair, just literally walking across the room, the gymnasium, and just pulling her down and beating her while everybody videotapes until a teacher comes up. This girl ended up having to go get a CAT scan and everything else. Why? Well, just because they let these animals run free, all these little kids with no supervision and no parental control. It's why would you put your kids in that situation? Why?
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
I mean, I don't know why I'm surprised, but I thought for just a hot minute that somebody would have an ounce of self-respect and hold people accountable for their actions. But I was wrong. Won't be the first time, won't be the last time that I'm wrong, but I was wrong. So my larger question to you and what I just proposed to the people in the chat room is, why would you send your kids to a system that's run by people like this? I mean, purportedly holding themselves up, right? To be we strive to model good conduct and to live up to our norms. First of all, who talks like this? Who talks like this? We strive to model good conduct and to live up to our norms, including to assume positive intent of each member and remain respectful at all times. So again, to assume positive intent so you're assuming that her intent in making that point and accusing these legislators of taking bribes was that was her being positive. To assume positive intent of each member. You're assuming that we need to strive to model good conduct for these kids, to live up to our norms. If this is what you're modeling for them, we are doomed. Doomed. This is the behavior you're modeling? recently we fell short of our standards. And a failure like this is a failure of the entire board. Collectivists, man. Collectivists. No individual accountability, no individual responsibility. It's all about the village. One of us failed, so all of us failed. I didn't fail. If I was sitting on that board, I would be screaming from the rooftops, I didn't fail. I mean, just, okay, all right. And these are the people that are running the system that's educating your kids. And you keep sending them down there and wonder why you keep having problems. But I guess at least they're not beating each other in the gymnasium. That's the latest story with video, by the way. The latest story with video. Clark Middle School student savagely attacked by a student gang during gym class. With video. The victim of Tuesday's assault was a 14-year-old white girl who was in the middle of gym class near the end of the school day. The assailants, who appear to be mixed Pacific Islanders, approached the girl with purpose in what looked like a planned, coordinated attack that involved punching, hair pulling, and when she was on the ground, she was kicked repeatedly by multiple members before a teacher intervened. The attackers were not part of the class that was in session in the gym, but had been released early from their classes and went to the gym where the victim was still in class. Apparently, this young girl had been moved from another school because her mother got sick, had a serious accident and was injured, and was unable to get her child to her previous school, so they transferred her to Clark, which is nearer to her home. So she enters the school year with no middle of the school year and has basically been harassed since the time she got there. Now, maybe it's racially motivated. 93% of the student body there is a minority, and there's only 7% that are white, and this was a white girl. Maybe it's racially motivated, maybe not. Maybe it's just, cliquish Lord of the Flies kids being Lord of the Flies kids. I don't know. But man, you watch this video, and they knew it was coming, and they posted videos about it. These kids stalk across the room, come up to this girl who's not even looking at him. She turns, grab her by the hair, and sling her face first into the floor and start beating her down. I mean, this is your schools today. This is what Josie the Outlaw, for those of you who don't know Josie the Outlaw is, she was a libertarian YouTube commentator who she's been silent for many years, but she was always really good. She talked about the schools being prisons because they're treated like prisons. This is the yard, right? This is the yard in prison, where they gave this girl a beat down, so much so that she had to be taken to the hospital to be given a CAT scan and have x-rays because they were worried something had happened. What happened to the attackers? No word. But it's a coordinated attack with at least 4 people and a person who's videoing the whole thing. We willingly send our kids into this day after day. I'm just so astonished. All right. I suppose I should go take a phone call before I burst a blood vessel. Let's go over here and see what you guys have to say. 907-433-3150. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Mike. This is Mark up here in the Tanana Valley and here at the Alaska Freedom Council. It's an interesting quandrum that we have here at the school district. This might be of interest to you. There's 108 co-sponsors of the Transgender Army Bill of Rights. And I think Lisa that gave everybody the finger might be one of them. But one of the very first people supporting this is the NEA, the union, NEA National Education Association, and they're the ones doing all this advancement on the Alaska taxpayers down at our capital in Juneau and right here in Fairbanks and on the Assembly. This is all their tentacle work. It's why all the kids should be pulled out of those hellholes and restructure our Alaska educational system. And I just want to be amongst the first to tell you about it. We need to get these people replaced and the system replaced for the benefit of the kids, because it's going to get worse. You're going to be in serfdom through taxes, and this is moving at breakneck speed. Thank you, and God bless you, and have a pleasant day.
All right. Thank you, Mark, for your call. I appreciate it. Ironically, I saw a tweet yesterday. They still call them tweets on X now that it's not Twitter. It's X, whatever. The Zeeks, eat tweaks, whatever. From the National Organization of Women. Remember them? Remember Gloria Steinem and Now? Remember when they were all about feminism and women and protecting women's rights? There was a tweet yesterday, day before, from the National Organization of Women criticizing women who wanted to prevent transgendered men from coming into women's sports or women's bathrooms, criticizing them for saying all women deserve that. It's madness. This is madness. This is the kind of stuff when you've got feminist organizations criticizing other women for not supporting and believing and wholeheartedly embracing transgendered men. Men who are biologically men but want to be women, or believe that they're women, or just dress like women, or just identify as women, even if they're in overalls and a flannel shirt. Whatever it is. I mean, the world is mad. The world is mad. That's what's going on. This is what's going on. All right. Yeah. I'm just absolutely blown away by this. One final call before we go to break. Phone lines are open at 907-433-3150. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Michael, it's your favorite person in the world. It's Melissa Burnett.
Oh, well, hello, Melissa Burnett. So I see that you are responsible for you've taken responsibility for what's going on in your school board. I think that's, Melissa, I just think that's going to be the
way we went.
I think that's just going to be the first question. People say, do you take responsibility? Is this your words and your language? Have you signed off on this, Melissa? Are you taking responsibility as a board member for the actions of your president, and you're okay with that?
No, absolutely not. And when that statement was formed, I have to be careful. We were in executive session, but I will say that I told the board that if this was the direction we were going to go, this was not going to calm anybody down. This statement was not going to do anything, and that unless the statement included the words that she was stepping down, this was going nowhere. The only responsibility that I will take, Michael, is that I should have point of ordered her. And Tim Dorn feels the same way. That's the responsibility I take as a board member. Is I should have been on better. I should have been more aware of what was going on. I have no excuses. So that's the responsibility that I do take.
Sometimes those things get away from you. I have had retroactive intelligence occasionally where all of a sudden I'm like, boy, I should really have. I
don't know if I lost you there, Michael, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said I too have had points where I've been on a board and I've later on I had retroactive intelligence where like, I really should have come back with this and said this, or, point of ordered it or objected, and I didn't because the thing was moving so fast. So it does happen. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, Melissa.
Yeah.
I'm not letting this go. This is ridiculous. This statement, and I know you were in executive session, so I'm not asking you to tell me, but it sounds like somebody punched a bunch of words into Chat GPT and just threw it out there, and it just word vomited something that sounds super intelligent but says absolutely nothing. This is unacceptable. If I had kids in the school system in Fairbanks, I would be outraged. I'm sure there's many people who are fine with it, but I would be outraged personally. And I hope something more continues of this. Rob has already commented in the chat room this morning that they are still exploring their legal options. So you guys could be opening yourselves up to a legal challenge and battle at this point. So I hope the board is ready for that.
Absolutely. And these are all warnings that I have thrown out there. These are all things I have been screaming. I feel bad for our legislators. They're very good people, especially Rob. Rob has been a very good friend of mine. Him and I chat a lot, and this whole thing, it's been, I'm not going to lie, Michael, it's been 2 weeks of hell. I have never experienced anything quite like this. When I signed up to be on the board and I wanted to do this was not what I wanted to do. So, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And I am sorry to our legislators. I know that they know that these aren't my words. I know that they know that this is not me, but I say it's 6-1 right now.
Yeah.
And so, I really hope that this fires people up. Like, please,
Yeah.
People really do need to be fired up right now. And if
they need to get motivated, they need to be charged about this for sure. Melissa, hold the line for a second here. I'm up against the break here and I got to go. We'll be back with more in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We return to more right after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
I want to see Melissa. Melissa, did you want to make a full statement or anything, or do you want me to hold you over, or is there anything else you want to say? We're not on the air right now. We're just me and you and 70 of our closest friends on Facebook.
We're not on the air right now. I just, I know that people know this and everybody keeps hammering. What really sucks right now for me is that Republicans and conservatives have been really hammering on me. So I do. I know that everybody wants my words and everybody is really wanting to hear what I have to say. And so, no, this was not me. I do not agree with these statements. I am sitting in a very precarious position, a 6-1. I'm trying very hard to do the right things and call out what needs to be called out. So these are not my words. I do not agree with any of this. I have screamed it, I have yelled it, and that's all I can do at this point. And I really hope that everybody gets fired up, and I really hope we can get me some help on this board come October, because, man, do I need it.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you, and I'll repeat this on the air. If I was running against her in the school board, or if there's been rumors that she plans on trying to run for Tomaszewski's seat. If I was running against her in whatever capacity, I would be soundbiting that piece, and I would be playing it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Is this the kind of person you want representing you? The one who just casts rumors and aspersions out from the high seat of where she's sitting and takes no responsibility for any of her actions. But this is, everybody may say she's a nice lady, she's this, she's that. Well, she made the decision to do this and she refuses to take responsibility. That makes her a bad person in my book. I mean, I don't know her, never met her, never talked to her, but that is all I need to know about her character at this point. And that is part of the problem. So you're right. I hope that more people get fired up and maybe there can be a change. Maybe, maybe not. But why you would have your kids in a system that's being run with people like this at the top and boards like this putting out a statement like this at the top, I don't know why you'd put your kids in any system that's run by people like that, period. That's just me personally. I don't know why
you wonder why we're losing 40 plus kids a year. And that's just fact. You can see it in our budget books.
Yeah. No, and I fully believe that you will lose more, Melissa. I fully believe that over the next 2 or 3 years, if this continues, you'll lose more than 40 a year. It could be 400 a year if this keeps up. Absolutely. Well, Melissa, I appreciate it.
I'm very worried. I'll tell you that.
Yep. Well, thank you for your service. I know you're trying to do the right thing. I know you went in there just to try to make schools better, and I appreciate all your hard work. Thank you for being there.
Hey, thanks, Michael. I'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it. School board member Melissa Burnett basically saying, no, they don't speak for her. And she has personally apologized, even though it's not her fault. Why? Why do you people keep sending your kids back to this mess? You know what would stop this? You know what would stop this whole thing? Let me just say, if not 50%, if not 45%, if not 40%, if 30% of you just decided this is madness and I'm not sending my kids to this anymore, and you yoinked your kids out of school and did something else, pandemic, learning pod, teacher share, homeschooling, whatever, that could change something. And why you'd want to send your kids to this is just, why would you sacrifice them on that altar? I just don't know for a second. I got one line on hold. We're about a minute and a half away from returning to the radio, so let's figure out who's on the phone so that when we get back to the radio, we can announce them. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Barbara from North Pole.
Hey, Barbara. Hold the line. You'll be number one in the queue when we return, and we'll start fresh with you from there. It's the wow. I'm so agitated by this whole thing. I have almost no words other than harsh language at this point. I cannot believe that this is going. I mean, this is what's going on in the schools all over the place. And again, that Clark Middle School thing. I mean, this is what you're going to send. You're going to drop your kids into the middle of that. That is horrific. And I feel for that 14-year-old girl. Man, that is got to be earth-shattering. How could you return? How could you go back to a school where something like that happened to you? How could you feel safe in yourself? How could you her life is, I mean, something like that is traumatic. And there'll be nothing done. Almost guarantee you. Nothing done. Even though it's on video. It's on video. Doomed. Okay, we're back. One final segment for the show today. We're going to continue. Barbara is up in North Pole. Barbara Haney, former Borough Assembly. She's here to give us her thoughts on all this and more. Good morning, Barbara. What's on your mind?
Good morning. I'm not former. I'm still on the
current.
assembly.
That's right. I'm sorry. You weren't one of the ones that got lost in the shuffle there, so I apologize.
I just would like to provide some kind of feedback, not as an assemblywoman, but as many people know, my son, some years ago, was the victim of a vicious attack, not too different from what you saw on that video at Clarkson. We had huge medical bills. The school district never came through on that. I paid those bills, but I've always been very interested in how the policy on bullying is being supervised in the Fairbanks North Star School District. One of the things that the school district can do is suspend a student from passing rumors. And when I listen to Ms. Hardy's comments as presiding officer, repeating rumors, I can't help but think that if she was a student in the school and did that, she could be suspended or expelled.
Well, sure. She's bullying.
Now,
yeah, she's.
What I find troublesome is she is, as the school board president, repeating rumors that if she was a student could be suspended for, and yet she's being given a pass here.
Right. Well, she's bullying.
And I find that very troublesome.
She's bullying from the pulpit, Barbara. I mean, the presiding officer has got. I mean, that's the bully pulpit. She is bullying the legislators, trying to besmirch them from the. That is the definition of bullying. That's exactly what's going on there.
Yeah, and we've had such a bullying problem out in some of the schools out here. Sometimes people come to me as an assembly member thinking I can do something about it. I go, no, you have to go to the school board. And some of the responses they get are very interesting, and I'm not going to litigate people's individual challenges on the air. But this explains so much now why so many people are having trouble with bullying in the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. You've got a prison officer who apparently doesn't, or a school board group who apparently has a very different perspective on how to handle these things. And then they should then modify their bullying policy if they're not going to follow through with their policy and their own conduct.
I would agree.
But I do hope to hear from people, and I'm sure other people in local government would like to hear about their feelings and thoughts about the current presiding officer of the school district. And I encourage citizens to provide their feedback. And if nothing else, on May 7th, you can vote no.
I think you make a valid point, Barbara, that if people should be sending in emails that says if the school policy is for bullying and passing rumors is a suspendable offense, that she should step down. Because you're right, they're supposed to be good models of good conduct, according to their statement. That's what they're supposed to do. And she failed. And not only failed, but has now doubled down and just continued to dig her heels in and refused to apologize or anything else. Just like any student that passes malicious, damaging rumors should be suspended. She should be suspended as the president. She should step down as president of the school board. I'm not saying she loses her position on the school board. I'm saying she should, but as the presiding officer is a decision of the board, and they need to remove her.
Right. Well, the school board is going to do what the school board's going to do, and if that's what they're going to do, if they're not going to uphold those same policies that they impose on students, we have the budget. The budget time is coming up, and we have a special election to fund the school district. So there are two other ways that people can address the issue if they would like to express an opinion. The budget session's coming up and the special election's coming up. And hey, if you think she should be fired, vote no.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Barbara. I appreciate you calling in this morning and giving us your thoughts on this. Thank you for your work there. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Barbara Haney, Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board, Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly member. All right. We're down to the last 3 minutes here. I might have time for one more call if you want to sneak in and say something. But at this point, here's what I'm going to do, just so that you know what's going on here. I'm not letting this go because this pisses me off so badly, so much. I'm not letting this go. We're going to play this clip repeatedly over the next few weeks, however long it takes to get some movement on this, until you're sick of it, until you've told your friends, until the people listening to the show who just spin over and see it, hear it, until something is done. Unacceptable for a public official to do this. I got time for a call here. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Carlene in Kodiak.
Good morning, Carlene.
I've searched my notes and I can't find it, but it was on national news about the Fairbanks a workout club, that there was a man shaving in the woman's locker room, and a woman went out to talk to the person at the counter, and the person argued that that's a girl, that's a woman, and the person that was arguing about this was asked to leave.
Yeah. No,
so
Planet. That was Planet Fitness.
on.
Yeah. Planet Fitness, Patricia Silva. She was the one that did it. She argued she actually got ejected from Planet Fitness because she dared to take a photo of this man who was in the woman's bathroom because he identified as a woman, even though he's a man. It's disheartening. And
he was shaving, and there was a 14-year-old girl walking out with a towel around her.
Yeah. No, it's disturbing, and that's why there's been a nationwide boycott call for Planet Fitness because of that. I got one more call on hold. Caller, hold the line. We'll take you off the air here. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Tomorrow's another day. Jamie Allard will be joining us. I don't know what we're going to do in hour one yet, but we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll talk about this again. Maybe I should just do 1 hour a day on this until something happens. It's insane. Absolute insanity. In Fairbanks, Alaska, my hometown, which just breaks my heart, 30%, that's all it would take. 30% of you pulling your kids out of these school systems would get somebody's attention. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, let's go over to the caller here. I'm sorry we didn't have enough time to get you on the air, but we still got all the folks in the chat room. Caller, who are you? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Melissa in Fairbanks.
Hey, Melissa.
So regarding the schools actually being the bullies, my children are no longer in the school district. We homeschool them exclusively now, but a couple years back, I did have kids in one of the elementary middle schools here, and they were there part-time because I was homeschooling them the basics in the morning and then taking them for extra classes in the afternoons. However, the principal pulled me in one day and demanded that I have a meeting with her, and she also demanded my credentials and how I was able to teach my children. And I don't think the meeting went the way she expected it to, because my response was, first of all, I don't answer to you. And second of all, I have more college degrees than you do. So I guess needless to say, my kids are homeschooled and we will not be going back. And I actually know quite a lot of people who are new to the area who are not even interested in putting their kids in our schools.
That's good. That's good. In fact, we should have people who are already got kids in schools pulling the school kids out. Why would you, again, with people like this running the whole thing, why would you want your kids going to a school system that's run by people like this? Why? Are your kids your most precious commodity? I mean, are they the thing that you're most important in your life? Well, then figure something else out, because this ain't it.
Yep. And my experience was that it was the principals. There was more than one of them. There is one principal here in town who is amazing. She's fantastic, and still is a principal. But the principals I dealt with at the elementary and middle school level were atrocious, and they were bigger bullies than anybody else any of the kids.
Yeah, no. I'm glad to hear that you did what you did. I'm glad to hear you stood your ground. First of all, I think I'd be asking questions about how that principal even thought they had the right to ask you that, because Alaska has been you've had the right to teach your own children for decades in this state, one of the freest states in the nation for that. How she even thought she had the audacity to believe that they could ask you that question. And I'm glad you put them in their place. I probably wouldn't have left it alone there. That would have pissed me off enough that I would have gone right to the superintendent and on to the school board from there. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Melissa. This is astonishing. And if we let it stand, it's, what kind of kids are we going to end up with when it's all said and done?
Well, look around you.
Yeah, exactly. Look at what just happened at Clark.
What kind of kids do you see?
Yeah, look at what just happened at Clark. I mean, that is indicative of a whole system, of a whole thing that is just falling short and failing us. And we should stop feeding fodder into the cannon at this point. All right, Melissa. Well, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate you calling in and joining us for today, folks. Yeah, I'm out of time. I'm out of time. I see that Denise says, I didn't hear it. Please play the clip. I'll play the clip. I'll leave you with a clip today. That was Melissa in Fairbanks, Rick, when he says, thanks for whoever's calling in. That was Melissa in Fairbanks, a parent in Fairbanks. This is it right here. This goes hand in hand with what the Andy Frisella's comment about being tax slaves. We've all become such good tax slaves that we're forced to put our kids into situations like this because it's the only way we can make enough money, we feel like, to get ahead and to do all these things. We're forced to become tax slaves and to put our kids in these government institutional schools and to have to deal with all this because we're part of this tax slave mentality. This is hand in glove. This is all part and parcel of it. This is it. Richard says, seems like most parents are forced to prioritize by placing earning a living over what's best for their children. Schools end up being a daycare rather than an educational institution. And that's part of that tax slave mentality. 100%. So I'll leave you with the comments of Brandy Hardy, the luminary who is the presiding officer of the Fairbanks North Starborough School Board, who laughs while she besmirches and slanders local officials with a rumor. But that's what goes on. So here you go.
To the other representatives, Representative Tomaszewski, Senator Myers, Representative Kronk, and I slightly give Representative Prax a pass because he didn't vote for it to begin with. So at least you stood by your vote. I am so utterly disappointed. Fairbanks deserved better. You are part of our community, and we were clear what we needed, and you let us all down. And I've heard rumors, and mind you, they're rumors, so newspapers in the audience, I'm fully aware, and don't quote me on it, that you might have sold us down the river for a $70,000 campaign donation. I hope it was worth it.
I hope it was. It's just a rumor. Pay no attention to me. I'm just a silly. Oh, it's just a rumor, but I hope it was worth it. All right. I'm out of here. I'm going to go have a drink at 8:00 in the morning. That's what today feels like. All right. We're going to be back with more tomorrow. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. We'll see you then.
Goodbye.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.